Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining us for our Homebuyer Quickie. This is going to be a very high level overview on what does it take to become a home buyer. I know that there is so much information out there on the internet, and everybody has an opinion on what you need to do for real estate and what you need to do to be a buyer. But this is just to level set it for you, give you a very good overview on what to expect when you get out there. First conversation. Obviously, as we go into it, we will do a deeper dive and get more information out there for you. But this is just meant to be a quick little refresher if it's not your first time, or intro if it's your first time, and we'll get it together. So first, I would like to introduce myself, Kat Massetti. I am the founder, team lead at the Haven Group and Arla at Properties, licensed in Virginia. Those are all of our socials up there. So if you want to check us out on the internet, that would be amazing. But I have been selling real estate now since 2017, full-time. 24/7 real estate agent. Prior to real estate, I was actually a pharmacist. I was a pharmacist for 6 years and, really wasn't passionate about it. And then took supposed to be 1 year break, got into real estate and just really fell in love with helping people through, one of the biggest financial transactions you're going to make in your life potentially. Also just really love getting to help people make these big decisions, and involve myself in the strategy of everything, and get you guys into, your homes and start building equity and really, planning for your future. I just love all of it. Since 2017, I have been very successful in helping clients through this competitive market. It is typically a seller's market in Northern Virginia, only because inventory tends to be very low, and it is a high cost area. So it's competitive to get into, but that's great because then you know that your real estate is truly an investment and an asset and will help you towards building for your future. Since the 2017 market, I have helped over, I would say, 200 families through this process by this point. Like I said, helping you through the competitive environment, helping you achieve your real estate goals, and making it seamless and hopefully fun as well. Part of it is, using my expertise to help you through this market, but also leveraging my relationships with the agents in the market to help us win contracts. I take this profession very seriously, and everything I do is to help my clients achieve what they want to. So all of this is for you. But yeah, would love to connect with you on all the social media. So go ahead, follow me, comment, start a conversation on there. Would love to meet all of you. So let's get started. We will go through topics such as, when is it a good time to purchase? Let's go through the financials of it, and then what does it take to be competitive? So when is it a good time? That is the $1 million question. I would say that real estate, it's very difficult to time the market. It is difficult to know when exactly is the ideal time to buy, when is going to be the lowest time to buy, when is it going to be the most advantageous time to buy. But things that we do know is that the home values in Northern Virginia tend to appreciate over time. So we are not a speculative market here. We are one that is slowly growing. So it is a market that is a good investment over the long run of time. So if you tell me, hey, Kat, I'm going to be here for a year, I want to buy in and then buy out, that's not the type of market that we are here. Our home values tend to appreciate over time. They will dip, but then they will slowly come back up. So we see on an average year, 3 to 5% 3 to 5% appreciation rates. During COVID years, which were very volatile years, we were seeing 10% year over year and even beyond that. So It's very dependent upon what's happening in the economy at the time, but at the same time, Northern Virginia is somewhat insulated to economic downturns, et cetera, because of the good job growth that we have here. Chances are you came here because of your job. We have very stable incomes, government, military, tech sector. So all of this leads to a stable economic market here, which is resistant to the volatility of what's happening in the economy. So the real estate market is dependent mainly on interest rates. Interest rates have been a big topic of discussion the last couple of years during COVID, and the years after that, we saw 2 to 3% interest rates. I don't know if we will ever see those again. Then we saw the 5, 6, 7% interest rates. So as interest rates are going up and down, that can determine on what's happening in the market, whether buyers feel confident to purchase or whether sellers are looking to move. And then what that does is it creates a supply and demand with an imbalance within the market. So when you have lower interest rates, then you will see higher demand because buyers want to capture that low interest rate. When we see low interest rates, we also see a decrease in supply generally, because as sellers are refinancing or have that low interest rate, it's not conducive to them moving and leaving that low interest rate. So with the low interest rate market, you have high demand, low supply. So that causes that competitive environment. What we've been seeing as well is as interest rates have gone up, we have also still seen low supply because most people who purchased in the last 2-3 years with the interest rates being 2 to 3%, they're not going to be as apt to move. Now, if you couple that with 2 to 3% interest rates with a higher interest rate, then less likely to move because they don't want to trade that 2 to 3% interest rate for a higher one. So it's causing a very low supply, which still then increases demand because our market is a very transitional one. So there are always people looking to move in and out of here. People who are looking to move in are looking to buy. So when we have very low supply but high demand, that's causing that really large influx and imbalance between supply versus demand. So markets are the market is dependent on interest rates, and then it's also dependent upon supply and demand. What does that have to do with sales prices? Now, as supply is low, demand is high, that's going to drive up the sales price. When the interest rates were a little bit higher and there was not as much demand, we saw sales prices kind of plateau, but they were always being driven up because of the low supply. So what is the bottom line of all of this? When is it a good time to buy? The best time to buy is when you can afford to. That's really my 2 cents, because the market is always appreciating historically. And so as soon as you can get into this market, it's expensive, but as soon as you can get in, you can start building equity. You're not paying rent and you're not paying somebody else's mortgage. You can start paying yourself. So as painful as it is to get into this market, the first step is the hardest. The first purchase is the hardest because that's going to be the largest chunk of money. And once you're in, and you can start building equity. And then what you do is you roll it over into your next place. So I always tell people, start with what you can afford, whether it's a condo or a townhouse or, et cetera. It's probably not going to be your dream home at first, but it's going to get you into the market. It's going to get you started on building your equity. You can then roll that over into your next place. Let's talk about the financials now. Money talks, right? Let me move my head so I'm not in the way. So first things to consider is going to be your down payment. You don't necessarily have, the 20% down payment does get you out of paying private mortgage insurance, but you don't necessarily have to wait until you can save that 20% down payment in order to purchase. Private mortgage insurance gets a bad rap. If you're going to be below a 20% down payment, you do have to pay a little bit more. However, you have to look at the math between how long is it going to take for you to save up to that 20% and whether it makes sense to buy the 5% down payment now and then pay a little bit of the private mortgage insurance and then start building the equity in the property. And then in those 5 years, let's say that you're going to live in that place, now you can roll over the equity into your next place, perhaps have 20% at that point to buy your next place. Or is it going to take you 5 years to save up that 20% down payment? So you kind of have to look at, how much money do you have to invest now? And then also, how long would it take for you to save up that down payment, and whether it makes sense to purchase now or to wait. And that's something that, we can talk through with the lender as well. The second piece of this is going to be your mortgage. So what you can do is, and how I let my buyers know about the sales price, is you take your down payment, so how much you have saved up, and what is your monthly payment that you would like to pay. And then we can reverse engineer it based upon how much you have to invest, plus how much monthly mortgage you want to pay. Reverse engineer that into a sales price. Now, does that sale price fit the type of house that you're looking for and what you want to purchase? Other costs to consider are going to be your closing costs. So typically that's 2 to 3% of the sales price on top of your down payment. That goes to pay for the loan, and it also goes to pay for title work as well as any taxes, et cetera, associated with the costs. So your down payment and your other costs is going to be your total investment. Your mortgage is going to be your principal. So that's what you're paying down into the loan, your interest, your taxes, and insurance. So they call that the PITI. And that would be your monthly payment plus any HOA or condo costs. So just things to consider when you're purchasing a home. Other things to consider would be paying for the home inspection, paying for the radon, paying for an appraisal cost. So there are other fees that go into the purchase. The last kind of consideration that you should think about as well is home maintenance costs. So even a brand new home is going to have home maintenance costs. As I call it, the joys of home ownership. It's something that you're going to have to maintain and you're going to have to take care of. So you have to consider how much is it going to cost to maintain a home as you're living in it as well. I tell people a good rule of thumb would just be 1% of the sales price to be saved to set aside towards your home maintenance costs per year. So just things to think about when we're talking about money and how much you want to save, as well as any fees associated with buying real estate. Number one question that people have as well is who pays me as the real estate agent? And typically that's going to be the seller. So yes, the seller does pay for the listing agent, so their selling agent, and then they're also going to pay for your buyer agent commission typically. Now I say typically because commissions are negotiable, and there are times where the seller may not want to pay for a buyer agent commission, and that's something that we can discuss, if that arises. Currently, most sellers are still offering buyer agents commissions because they know that in order to sell their home, the buyer typically will have an agent that they will need to pay to get the purchase done. Any questions about any of that? I know I ran through it. Just send me a message. Like I said, this is a high level look at things, and then we will go forward and go in more detail as we go through the process. Now, as you've heard, things can be competitive out there. So I am not afraid of competition. I have helped my clients go through and beat multiple offer situations. Every single situation is different and requires different strategy. Part of what I love is working through, how can we do what we need to get done to get you into that house. So some considerations are going to be what are called contingencies. So contingencies are, you can think of it as speed bumps along the way in the offer. It's a way for you to pause as a buyer and say, yes, I want to go through with the contract, or no, let's pull back. So as I alluded to, contingencies are considered speed bumps along the way. If you have an offer that has a lot of speed bumps, versus an offer that doesn't have as many speed bumps, typically the seller is going to take the more smooth route because they want to get to make sure that they get to closing in a stressless transaction as possible. So they would rather take that smooth road to get to closing. But that's one of the things that we're going to discuss as we get through this is, what contingencies do we need to consider? What does the competition look like? What would we need to do in regards to those in order to win? And then ultimately, it's your comfort level as a buyer, right? I am the agent in this. I am the one that gives you the information. You are going to be the ones that live in the house. And so you'll be the ones that will look at it and see what you want to do. You make the ultimate call at the end of the day. Typical contingencies include a home inspection. I will, say that if it gets really competitive, that's typically the first contingency that most buyers are going to remove. So there are things that we can do in order to mitigate that risk in regards to the home inspection. Appraisal. So if you're getting a loan, the lender is going to send out an appraiser. They will value the property. They will let the bank know how much the property should be worth. And then that's what the bank's going to use in order to give you the loan. The last contingency is financing. So that's that you will close on the property with the loan and that the loan will be finalized. So those are the typical three main contingencies we have to contend with in the offer. Another way to be competitive would be in regards to your down payment as well as your earnest money deposit. So the more down payment that you're putting forward, you would think, why does the seller care? They're getting the money at the end of the day. Well, typically, the more down payment you're putting down, that signals to the seller that you have more money in order to be liquid and that you are more secure as a buyer. Other ways to be competitive would be your settlement date. So if you're flexible with that, then that can help because the sellers may want to close sooner versus longer. They may also ask for what's called a rent back. So typically sellers in this market, they want to close on the house, get the money, and then go buy their next house. In the meantime, what they'll want to do is close on the house and then have time to go look for their next place. So what you can do is you can rent back the property to the sellers. So allow the sellers to stay in the property. You own it, but allow the seller to stay in it for a longer period of time so that they can go look for their next place. With a loan, typically that's a 59-day rent back max. And I will say in competitive markets, you typically will let the seller stay in there for free. Now, timing wise for you, that can work because your first mortgage payment is not due until 2 months after you close. So for example, if you were to close in March, your first mortgage payment is not due until May 1st. So you may allow the sellers to stay in the property for free. And then, your mortgage is not due until 2 months later anyway. So things that you can do to be competitive in this market, there's a lot of different strategies that we can get into. I am very experienced with helping my clients beat competition and something I'm comfortable with. In addition to helping you be competitive would be your lender. So in this market, listing agents typically like to work with lenders that they already know or that they heard of. Local lenders have an advantage in that regard. Although there are 22,000 agents in the DMV area alone, the top, I would say 10% do 90% of the business really. So yes, I am in the top, I would say 2% actually, not to toot my own horn, but it does help you in this market because I am highly regarded within the agent circles. They know that, with my clients, that they are well educated, that they're very prepared, and that they know what they need to do in order to finish and close on the contract. So that helps you in regards to being competitive because the sellers are going to be looking at the full package. They're going to be looking at your offer. They're also going to be looking at which lender you're working with, as well as the agent that's putting forward the offer to help you win the contract. So that in a nutshell is what's going to be a very high level of what it takes to be a buyer in this market. Hopefully I didn't scare you too much, but I really just wanted to get you a little bit more comfortable with what you're going to expect out there, as well as give you some information on, how to get started in the home buying process. I know there can seem complicated, but just know that I am here to help you with your success. If you have any questions at all, feel free to send them my way. I'm very low pressure. I'm not here to get you into a house. I'm not in it for the sale, if that makes sense. But I'm here to help you achieve your goals and get you into a home if that's what you want to do. But I am always, always here to help you.